we are 5 days away from the Baylor football spring game at McLean Stadium. There's all kinds of storylines with new coaches here, with a new quarterback here, and the quarterback battle that's going on. And how are they going to put together two competitive lines that they did not have last year, both on the offensive and defensive side? And new faces, new tactics, and one that remains the same is head coach Dave Aranda, to a lot of people's surprise. The administration, the athletic department stuck with him for this 2024 season. How long he'll last, that remains to be seen. But I will say, I've liked the pieces he's put into place in this offseason. But one thing I am still, most of that's on the offensive side of the ball. One thing I am still skeptical of is Dave Aranda taking over as the defensive coordinator, defensive play caller as well. Technically, they still have the same defensive coordinator in there, Matt Powledge, but it's Aranda that's calling the plays, sinking his teeth into it more, getting more hands-on with the defense. Very successful defensive coordinator in the past. National championship defensive coordinator in the past. But it is interesting, I think, to see, a guy who has struggled for the majority of his time as a head coach to try to go back to what he knows he's good at, being a defensive coordinator, while also still trying to be the head coach. I'm cautious about it. Let's say that. I'm not going to say he cannot do it, because I do really value him as a defensive coordinator. I'm just intrigued to see what that looks like. And we know that part of the hiring with Jake Spavital, and this is something they had said from the beginning, was they wanted an offensive coordinator with head coaching experience, so that a little bit more can be taken off the plate, I think, of the head coach. And that's what you have gotten. And so just over the weekend, Eric Kelly of Fox 44 asked what it was like for Dave Aranda to get back into more of a hands-on defensive coaching role. And Dave had a very interesting, albeit not safe for some workplaces, answer to that question.
I feel pissed off a whole lot more. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but I feel I get mad more than I normally would. And so I think the intensity of everything is way risen up. And I just think, I think to win games on defense, it's got to be 4th and 1 every day. And I think to try to be where that's the attitude, where it's 4th and 1, and that you're bringing people together at the same time, there's a trick to that. And so we're trying our best to work that trick, But I know that everybody feels the urgency and the intensity, and it's got to start with us as coaches.
Like most of us watching last year, Dave Aranda is pissed off. Better that than pissed on, I always say. I think this is a good thing, right? Or is it? Because I just saw people all throughout the season last year, even in the games they would win, they'd be in the comment section of these videos. They'd be all over social media, Facebook too. So that includes the other generation that doesn't use Twitter. And it was all, no matter what the outcome, kind of upset with the head coach's personality, and that he was very easy to shake things off, very cavalier about these things, use the Berenstein Bears and all that. And there were so many people, I think a legitimate portion of the fan base, that thinks you can't win with nice guys. You can't win with choir boys on the field, and you can't win with Boy Scouts telling them what to do off the field. Or on the sideline, I should say, not off the field. Let me rephrase that. You can't win with choir boys on the field. You can't win with Boy Scouts trying to tell them what to do on the sidelines. And Dave Aranda is now saying, this has awoken something in me. I'm not the Berenstein Bears guy anymore. I'm getting angry, and you won't like me when I'm angry. At least that's what we're hoping for. So is that enough? Is that enough for you guys? And this is a genuine question, because I didn't think the head coach did a good job last year. I also didn't really care about the attitude he brought into a press conference necessarily most of the time. But It would be nice to see him a little more fired up. And one thing he did say is the intensity level has risen up as well, which is also a double-edged sword to hear as Baylor fans, because it's something nobody would admit last year, that there was just a very much a lack of energy on that sideline. And I can't help but think that trickled down from the head coach. But it was a problem. It seemed like there wasn't much of a compete factor, to use a word that, or a phrase that Dave likes to use a lot. I didn't see a lot of that out there. And to actually acknowledge that there is a chip on the shoulder of this team, and that they are getting better at themselves getting more pissed off, I think is a good step forward. I do. And right now it's all talk. I understand that. It's all talk right now. We're not going to, it's not going to mean anything if we see it on display in the spring game. It's not going to mean anything until we see it on display against Utah, really. That's when it starts to mean something. Because until then, it's just kind of what we want to hear. But I'll say this, Dave Aranda has never been in the business of telling us what we want to hear. We can all talk about that from last year's experience. So that does lead me to believe, and again, maybe this is naive, me being naive. There's something on this show like once or twice a week that I'm like, maybe I'm naive, but, and this is one of them. Dave Aranda tells it like he sees it, not what we want to hear, not getting himself into trouble most of the time. Whether you think it's too vague or you think it doesn't make sense, he's telling it how he sees it. So when he says, I'm more pissed off out there, I do believe him in that. Say what you will. I do believe in him. I think it could be warped from our standards, from what we see on the field, but I do think he believes that. And maybe that is what unlocks something in this team, because we've heard from the recruits that they feel like they have a chip on their shoulder. I've heard from current players on the team, they feel like they have a chip on their shoulder. There's a coaching staff of guys who feel like they have a chip on their shoulder, and it starts with the guy at the top. And now he has admitted that he comes in with more intensity. And I think that's the way you got to do it. Treat every day like it's 4th and 1. I hope they're better than that, than the way they were on the field last year, both offensively and defensively on 4th and 1. That'll be a good place to start, I would say. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. We really appreciate that. And if you want to keep up to date on all the Baylor sports news, be sure to give us a like and ring the notification bell, because we are your first listen today and every day. We are your exclusive home for nothing but Baylor sports content 5 days a week that's not coming straight from the university. Be sure to follow us here on YouTube and also wherever you get your podcasts, and on Twitter as well at Locked On Baylor. Thanks so much again. Have a good one, and sick 'em.